I am the president of the International Jump Rope Union, and I've been a part of the sport for almost over 30 years.
Okay, that's all you tell people?
No, I'm a true advocate for our sport, our activity, and who we are as a sport. There's a lot of things that I do in terms of helping guide vision, help create vision to where our sport is headed, the future, and also support all of our members from around the world, and also always looking at the athletes and asking the questions, asking tough questions about how are we helping and supporting them, and what are we doing on an everyday basis to help propel and move our sport forward. Yeah.
And when you say all around the world, is that literally all around the world?
Literally all around the world. IJRU, we have about 60 member countries. That's spread out literally all over the world. Places that I never thought our sport could reach. It's there, and there's even greater opportunity really to expand. So it's quite amazing to see how far our sport has come, and also it's inspiring to see just how far it really can go.
Right.
Yeah.
What country are you the most excited has come on board in the last 5 years?
That's a tough question.
Maybe you weren't expecting them to, and all of a sudden they put it together.
Yeah, I'm always encouraged when I see African countries come on board. Botswana was one that I was quite surprised to see jump on board, pun intended. It's always amazing to watch our sport come to a particular place and people adopt it and they want to do great things with it. Morocco recently has been very adamant about moving forward with the sport as well. So it's always good for me especially when I see Africa countries come on board. Yeah.
And is that a resource thing more than an awareness issue, or what has been the reason they haven't been on board?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think awareness and resources often play a role. As I say, no money, no mission, right? And also I think when people think about the sport of jump rope, they often don't think about really what it is. Anytime people say jump rope, you think a little girl in pigtails, right? Or you think fitness, working out, versus a competitive entity, a competitive sport. So, I think it's a combination of both. And I think it's something that as we grow and as the global community continues to see the benefits of what our sport is and activity, we're going to see more and more countries and groups say, you know what, sign me up. I want to get going. I want to help spread the sport in my particular country.
Yeah. So then, in a nutshell, can you define, and you kind of already did, but I'm just going to ask it more directly.
Yeah.
Can you define what the effort of the IJRU is?
Sure. Well, IJRU is the governing global body for the sport of competitive jump rope. It's in governance. You set the standards in which the sport moves and grows and develops, globally. And all sports have an international federation. They all do, no matter what sport, they all have one. IJRU is that for the sport of jump rope, and with 60 member countries, it's the largest we've ever had in our sports history. And so to be in this space now and seeing the opportunities that are in front of us, it's humbling, really, because I remember in the days where you didn't have all these countries, or jump rope was just a niche kind of activity that some people knew about. But as the sport continues to grow, as IJRU continues to push the message forward, more countries come on board, and our affiliations throughout the Olympic movement, it's amazing to see the potential that we truly have.
What 3 words, or which ones do you pick anyways, that describe or define your life to this point?
Three words that I guess that would describe my life up to this point. resiliency, joy, and hope.
Well, those are really good words. Now you have to explain why.
You know, life will bring challenges. It's unavoidable. No matter what you do, life will bring challenges. In fact, a good book says that man born of woman is but a few days and is full of trouble. So you're going to have trouble. Question is, are you going to be resilient? Are you going to continue to move forward? And so for me, resiliency has been a bedrock of who I am, because whatever challenge that has come my way, I've been so blessed to survive it and not give up. So, you know, resiliency is one that defines me quite a bit. Joy. You know, you can't let your joy ever be diminished, because, you know, joy is different from happiness. You can choose to be happy, right? People always say money can't buy happiness. Yeah, it can. It's temporary. But, you know, happiness is a fleeting thing. But joy is the spark of happiness. You know, having joy, finding joy in what you do, finding joy in life is essential, especially if you're going to do hard things. Because it's hard, they're hard for a reason. So you have to take, as I always say, you got to take frustration and make it a passion. So joy is essential for me, because I'll get frustrated about something, but joy says, don't be frustrated, be passionate. Joy says, don't be jealous, be inspired. You know, joy is the converter for me. So joy.
That's good.
And then the last one, hope. You gotta have hope. You know, you gotta have hope in life. If you're gonna do hard things in life, hope is the thing that allows you to keep going. Hope allows you to even have resilience. You know, of course, you know, faith is a substance of things that's even hoped for. And so being able to see light at the end of a tunnel when it's completely dark and things have gone completely awry, it's that hope that says, you know what, I can do it. I can keep going. Yeah.
I like the joy is the converter. That's good, because it's, you know, I always hear like, well, joy is not defined by your circumstances, right? Or how you choose to be shouldn't be defined by your circumstances.
It shouldn't be,
right? But that's always the distinction between joy and happiness. And like what you just said is that joy defines your circumstances.
That's right.
Which is like just.
You said
that's
it way,
like the next level, you know?
You said it way better now.
No way, yeah, I like the converter thing. That was good.
Yeah.
What's the hardest thing in your life that you wouldn't take back?
What's the hardest thing in life I would not take back?
Yeah.
I would say losing a job.
Got it.
You know, when I grew up, you know, having a job, career, that was, you know, you check things off the list, right? And there's security in that. You feel comfortable. You know, you feel like as long as I have this, I'm okay. And when you lose a job, some of that security gets taken away and you begin to question who you are. You know, but going through a job loss, for me, has actually been liberating. When you use joy to convert it, right? I wouldn't take it back because I now walk in a different purpose than I had before. I was always playing it safe. As long as I had this job, I was safe, right? But being safe does not always mean you're doing what you're supposed to do. You know, being safe doesn't mean that you're walking in your purpose. And so sometimes in life, you have to lose certain things to gain. And so I wouldn't take it back. I wouldn't wish it on anybody either, but I wouldn't take it back. Yeah.
How have you grown as a result of this hard thing?
You know, you've grown because now you realize just how precious time really is. And if you spend your time playing it safe, you never really walk on the water, right? You never really get out of the boat. You never really see who you can become if you truly gave your all. So, the growth for me has been one of knowing that, wow, just how strong you really are, just how much you can really take. And also, heck, there's really nothing else to be afraid of in life. When the thing you thought would never happen to you happens, after it happens and you say, I'm still here, I guess I can take it. Let's go. What else is next,
Did you have any people who came alongside and helped, or maybe gave you words of encouragement that helped get you through it?
Yes. Yeah, I did. One of my brothers, my father, of course my pastor, they really came alongside and they were able to give encouragement because many of them had experienced something similar. It's amazing the people who you think you could rely on or should rely on may not always do that. But there's somehow people who you need at the right time show up. And unexpected people. That's the beauty about life. That's why you can't really judge a book by its cover. Or you can't look at certain things and say, I know that's going to happen. Well, no, you don't. So for me, in my difficult season of even now, it's amazing of provisions and people who come into my life and give me encouragement and I would have never thought that, that would be the source of that. And it's amazing, and it's really challenged me to not always think of where provision will come from. It just comes.
Yeah, it's like a rest, right? Mm-hmm. You're able to, instead of like scrambling and scratching and trying to claw for provision, mm-hmm. You're just able to be content and rest, knowing that it'll come.
Well, yeah. And for me, it's also one of those things where I think frustration happens when there's a gap between expectation and reality, right? When you have an expectation, but reality does something, the question is, how far is the gap? And depending on if the gap is wide enough, the greater the frustration, right? If it's closer, you're not as frustrated, right? Because your expectations are meeting your reality. Well, similarly, in tough seasons and tough moments, your expectation and your reality. How can you overcome the gap, right? And when it comes to people coming in your life, you might expect some people, but the reality is something different. And you can be very frustrated the fact that the people you expected to help you don't, right? Well, again, how do you overcome that gap? And I think you have to be reflective and meaningful about who you are as a person and accept the help that does come, even from places you did not expect, right? And not be bitter about who did not help. That makes sense?
Yeah, because I think I experienced this with at the time, she's my wife now. We weren't married. But the idea that like when you're looking for a specific thing, mm-hmm. maybe it's a specific person to meet your need or get you where you need to go, and they're not doing it, you have blinders on, right? And all you see is the missed opportunity.
That's right.
But when you can remove yourself from that, the blinders are gone, and you can receive all the other things that are coming your way instead of just totally being blinded to it. Yeah. So was there a specific piece of encouragement that you latched onto from somebody? Yes.
I think the thing that, I guess, the piece of counsel or the concept that more so came to my mind to help me through all of this is that, everything is a choice. You choose to love, you choose to engage, you choose to disengage. You choose to be happy, choose to be sad sometimes. It's a choice. And once you realize that you have a choice in the matter, it becomes liberating. That you don't have to stay where you are. Why sit we here and die? Why? You can choose to get up. You can choose to stay here, or you can choose a different path. And I'm so grateful to have that choice.
All right. So how did you get started in jump rope? Was there a specific moment? Maybe just tell a little bit of that story of how you got involved.
Okay, so this is I'll try to concise the story. How I got involved with jump rope. So I'd actually moved to a town, Sweetwater, Texas, the day before school started, 4th grade, and literally had 0 friends, day before school started on time. All I kept hearing about was jump rope tryouts after school. That's all I kept hearing about. I'm thinking, what the heck is a jump rope team? No idea. And so me and my brother, actually, older brother, we went down to the gym afterwards and it's a jump rope team. And at the time, the coach name was Liz Lambeth, or now Liz Miller is her name now. She was the coach, Miss King. And it was a local group that did local halftime basketball shows, And tried for a team, made it, right? Excited, 4th and 5th grade, it was a good thing. And very local, very localized to just the Sweetwater and surrounding areas. And at the time, Miss Lambeth, Miss Miller, she wanted to have kids try out for an American Heart demonstration team. And for years she had been trying, but never really got a group to go. Well, she asked myself and 2 other my best friends and partners, Willie Amos and Cliffy Forbes, to say, would you guys be willing to try out for this thing? We said sure. So they filmed us and they sent it to a guy named Roger Crozier, who judged whether or not you could become a part of this American Heart demonstration team. We made it. In the early 90s, I took my first ever jump rope trip to Galveston, Texas for this Texas Education PE convention. And that's when my life changed, because that was the first time I saw jump rope athletes outside of Sweetwater. Because up until that time, I thought we were the only people doing jump rope, right? It was quite remarkable because they were really good, like really good, way better than we ever were. There wasn't YouTube, there wasn't, clips you can show everyone. So many times we thought we invented some tricks. Well, no, they already existed. So, we started talking and saying, how'd you guys get this good? What's going on? And they would tell us, well, you got to go to camp. That's where you really learn. You have jump rope camps? I mean, it just was a shock to realize that there was this entire community that existed. And so, when we said, all right, well, there's camps, and that's good. So the first time I went to a jump rope camp, again, early 90s, life really changed, because that's when I saw the staff. And the staff were these high school, college age athletes. And they were just doing the business. They were just awesome flips, and what they did with the rope just made me just question everything about, oh my gosh, life, right? And so my focus was, how do I become that? How do I do that? And they said, oh, you got to do 2 things. You got to teach at workshops and go to competitions. There's competitions for this. And so literally from the time I was 11 to the time I was 18, and even beyond that, it was all about teaching workshops, going to competitions, so I could be on staff at camp. To me, camp was, staff camp was the epitome of my jump rope experience, So competitions for me kind of came as a byproduct. Was good at it, Ended up winning some championships, national, and then a world championship in 1999. Yeah, so that's kind of how I got into the sport. Even when I was first moved to Sweetwater, the day before school started, I kind of had a little secret, and that was from the 1st to the 3rd grade, I was actually in special education classes. I had a very, very pronounced stutter. My brothers were pretty brutal. They made fun of me pretty mercilessly. But and literally from the 1st to the 3rd grade, I didn't even attend, classes on the main campus. I was always in these trailer rooms apart from the main campus. And growing up in the 80s in Texas, African American male with special needs, if you will, or special education, there wasn't a lot of attention given. So when we moved to this town the day before school started, Sweetwater, I basically begged my parents, just don't tell anybody, just don't, because I felt that I could learn, and I felt that I could be just a normal kid, be alongside everybody else. And that's really why I have this inclusion mindset. I know what it's like to be excluded from things, and such. It just bothers me. So I begged them, just don't tell them. They're like, are you sure? It's like, yeah, I can learn. And so I remember praying, and then just praying, God help me to do this. And little did I know that the answer would come in the form of a rope, because once I started jumping rope, on a consistent basis in the 4th grade, next thing I know, brain functions and speeches cleared up. Left brain, right brain just really started to connect. Before I knew it, that stutter went away. That pronouncement went away. And I like to say now, whereas I was once a part of my life where no one cared what I had to say and no one could understand me, to now coming to Wenatchee and have kind folks like you want to hear what I have to say. I owe that to what this rope, what this thing can do for people. And that's why I'm passionate about it. For some people, jump rope it's a fun hobby. It's a good thing to do. For me, it literally saved my life. So I'm never going away. I'll be a part of the sport, because there are other people who can benefit from it just like I did. That's why I'm passionate about it. I believe there are more children out there who can be set free, have confidence, if they just can pick up a rope.
Okay, is that just for you though? Like, you picked up a rope and your stutter went away, or how did that happen? How could a jump rope change the way you talk? I'm not a physician. Come on, doctor.
I'm not a physician. I genuinely believe that it was a godsend, and I believe it helped me with confidence. It helped me with becoming more secure in who I was, because, integrating the rope with my arms and legs and remembering things in a sequence to music, mind you, unlocked a lot of things that I just didn't really know were buried. And before I knew it, again, that confidence level got to the point where I didn't mind speaking in public, didn't mind. In fact, I enjoyed it. It's probably why you can't get me to shut up now. It's because I know what it's like where you can't, or you feel shy and you don't want to because you don't feel confident. But jump rope gave that to me. It gave me a new lease on life, and that's why I'll always be grateful to the sport, and I'll always push it and help more and more people become part of it.
The IJRU, like, how did you come to be involved starting the IJRU, or as it's maybe not starting but forming?
Sure.
And what were a couple of the pivotal moments?
Sure. Well, IJRU formed where these two entities, World Jump Rope and FISAC, which is a French acronym that means International Rope Skipping Organization, came together. And there was it was a moment for our entire global community that I think we all appreciate, because we knew that divided we were never going to get far, right? And so, and there were a lot of people, so too many to even name. There were a lot of people who worked behind the scenes, who made it possible for this to happen. And so I believe it was 2017 in Aarhus, Denmark, is where I met Mr. Takashi Ogawa, who was the president of FISAC at the time. We met for the first time, and we spoke. And, outside looking in, a lot of people thought that this was going to be a contentious battle between the two. It really wasn't. TK and I both, we call him TK for short, TK and I both saw that here's an opportunity to do something that can benefit the world, right? What's the best path for us all? And so we quickly came to a way forward, right? Of course, we had to work out the details, had to figure out how this was going to happen. But our intention was always for what's best for the sport and what's best for the athletes. Like I said, there were many people along the way who just did tremendous work to get us to that point, right? But when it came down to the two leaders, right? Again, leadership matters. When it came down to the two leaders were able to sit down and say, what's best for the sport and what's best for the athletes. And that's been our mantra ever since. So that's kind of how it got formed together in 2017, and in terms of the beginning talks. And so we worked things out and then the result became the International Jump Rope Union. And we chose the word union intentionally because it's the union joining of two organizations, and we chose the term jump rope again for a very deliberate reason. So yeah, that's how it came along, without all the gory details, if you will.
And how were you even in the position to be the one to be talking to TK, right? Like, obviously you were leading
World Jump Rope.
So why lead World Jump Rope? How did that even come about?
Well, World Jump Rope got started even back in 2008, in 2009, because there was a need that we saw in the world that wasn't being met. There was not an umbrella for all of the sports, all of the events and activities for the sport to come compete together. It's just no slight against FESAC or anything like that, but the global community was shrinking, and people didn't feel that they were being included as much. And so, World Jump Rope formed in an effort to bring it all together, if you will. All the way from double Dutch contests to even new events like wheel freestyle to all kind of events to really have an umbrella for every place and everything. And so a lot of people who I work with at that time, some friends of mine and mentors of mine, they saw that this guy can lead us from a chairman perspective. It took a while, and it's like, Shaun's got the idea here, and so they allowed me to take that leadership role. And a lot of them were in the more sunset of their careers of leadership role, and they really blessed me to say, you're going to help lead the future, so you might as well get your practice now while you can. And it was very beneficial because I learned a great deal working with them. And so when it came to in 2017, where it was time to meet with FESAC, I was the leader in the chair, if you will, and we made it happen. Yeah.
So this is the question I was going to ask earlier, but thinking back, like jump rope, you're still involved in jump rope.
Yeah.
And so many people, for a lot of different reasons, don't stay the course. Like they start out as a little kid jumping rope, but then 20 years old, 15 years old, 25 years old, it kind of falls by the wayside. How is it that you've been able to not quit, like stay the course?
Yeah, I've been able to be a part of this sport for as long as I have, and God willing, the rest of my life, because, as I said before, jump rope is more to me than just a sport. It's not just a fun hobby. It brings me joy in a different way. It saved my life, and so I'll always be indebted in gratitude for it. But I believe, to me, jump rope is just like life. I'll borrow this from my friend TK. Jump rope is like life. It has its ups and downs. But anyway, but beyond that, it is like life. If you just keep jumping, you're going to be okay. Mistakes are going to happen. Our jump rope athletes know this. You're going to be jumping, and a mistake is going to happen at some point. No one's that good to ever go their whole career without making a jump rope mistake, right? You're going to trip, the rope's going to break, or the handle's going to fall out. Something's going to happen. The trick is you got to keep going. You don't become defeated to the point to where you stop jumping. That's what it's like for me in life. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have mess-ups. The rope's going to break. You're going to lose a job. You're going to have to sell the house. Marriage may be in peril. but you got to keep going. You cannot stop jumping. So for me, it's about that. Keep jumping. Keep going. Because if you do, you will be successful.
Like, what do you attribute to your ability to keep jumping?
I think it's just because I understand what the sport can do for you if you don't give up on it. But even beyond that, if you just don't give up on life, there's wonders that exist if you don't give up. You know, you can choose to give up if you want to, but guess what? Doesn't change the problem. I attribute that to, I think everyone has something, a cross to bear. Everyone has a cross to bear. Everyone has a thing that they are attached to, and they either choose to bear it or they choose to just say, nah. For me, jump rope is my cross to bear. I'm the most unlikely person to be in this position. I didn't choose it, actually. I was chosen to do it. But I do realize I am the person here at this time to see it through. And so I just think that if we take the time and to get beyond how we feel in the moment, acknowledge it, yes, but know why you are here, and know that what's inside of you is greater than anything that's around you. Once you realize that, giving up is the last thing you're going to do. It's the last thing. Because there's more inside of you than there is that's outside of you. You just got to keep going. Yeah.
What does that phrase mean to you?
Okay. Overcomer shirt I'm wearing, and what does it mean to me? So it's kind of a ethos of my life. So I'm gonna, but you guys know I am gonna write a book. So I want to make this statement clear that this came from Shaun Hamilton. All right, but it is innate for humans to want to accomplish something. A blind person who's never seen the victory salute will still raise their hands above their head in a victory, even though they've never seen it. It's innate for people who want to accomplish something, right? It's innate to us. To me, that's what jump rope is. You are winning, accomplishing every time you jump over that rope. Every time. I've been in different parts of the world where I've turned ropes and jumped with children and kids who came from the most horrible situations. Families have been killed in terrorist attacks. They're now refugees, and we've been invited to come and actually jump with them. I've seen their attitudes change completely from the first hour to the next hour. They're smiling. I've turned for people who were blind, who had learning disabilities, and no matter what the circumstance is, I've seen them smile, because when they jump over the rope, they're overcoming that much. And you cannot help but to smile. You cannot help but to appreciate that you are overcoming, even if it's just over the rope that much. That's why jump rope is so special. You can't jump and be sad, because no one who overcomes is going to be sad. They're going to have a rejoiceful heart because of it. That's what this shirt means to me, overcoming. That's what it means. Because it's jump rope. Our athletes, they just do it with a way more style than anyone else.
When you hear the phrase, do hard things, what comes to mind? Another way to put that is, like, how would you define that idea or phrase?
How would you define hard things? I guess how I would define hard things are things that are worthwhile doing. Nothing worthwhile was ever easy, ever. So I kind of look at hard things as an opportunity. I'm kind of weird that way. That when someone tells me it's hard, I set up like, oh really? And I guess that comes from being a jump rope athlete, former jump rope athlete, because we were always pushing, challenging. Let's make it harder. Right? That's the era I grew up in jump rope, of not just let's do what's impressive. How can we make this harder? What if we added a person and stacked them on top? What if we did this? And so whenever I hear a hard thing, I sit up, because I know greatness is close by. Nothing ever in life was ever achieved that was great wasn't hard. So I see it as opportunity. You tell me it's hard for the sport to grow. You tell me it's hard to get people to change. You tell me it's hard for our sport to become a part of the Olympic program. That's what makes it great. Don't run away from hard things. Move towards them.
Easier said than done, right? It's like, I think about Jesus, and he's like, you got to count the cost.
Yeah.
Right? And I think half the time we don't even fully appreciate how hard something is.
Yeah.
When we say yes to it, or when we're forced into it, right? How many of us are actually saying yes to the hard things we have in life?
Very few say yes to hard things. Well, I think that is where there's a difference between those who are really going to lead and those who may not always meant to lead. It's okay. Everyone's not meant to lead everything. That's okay. But I do believe leaders have a different mindset of when they see challenges, that there's more opportunities than there are challenges. That there's an opportunity that we're going to learn something from this. We're going to get something out of this. We're going to get an understanding. We're going to get glory out of this some way. Even if we don't always succeed, we're going to get something out of it. It's the journey that matters. That's why the hard things are attractive, because the journey is really what is the gift. The result at the end is awesome, yes. Great trophy, great milestone. But what did you learn along the way? What did you get from the process? That's the real gift. Yeah, the milestone is awesome. The trophy, the applause, yes. But that's the result. But it was the journey that made all the difference. Because that's what you pass on. I can't pass on the trophy, right? I can't pass on the applause, because that's gone. What I can pass on is the story of the journey, to help someone else in their journey.
Right.
That's what's so important about that.
Yeah, and it's thinking about that journey side. It's like and to tie a little bow on some of the other stuff you said, it's that the verse that has kind of defined for us this do hard things concept is that Romans 5, and I forget the exact verse, but it's Romans 5, and it's consider it joy when you face trials idea. So struggles produce perseverance. Perseverance produces character. Character produces hope.
That's right.
And there's both. Yeah. And and like that idea that without that progression, that journey, you have no way to like press into hope.
That's right.
And it's not like what I've always hoped it is, pun not intended, is that you just like flip the switch. It's like, I want to be a more patient person. Flip the switch. Now I'm more patient. But the reality is, it's like, well, I'm going to live in a lot of situations where I have to choose and grow into patience.
That's right.
That are going to want to make me impatient.
That's right. I remember. Even when I asked God to help me with stutter problem, He gave me a rope, right? Okay, but guess what? That rope wasn't gonna spin itself. At some point, you had to do the work of it. I remember, messing around and asked God for wisdom one day. What did I do that for? Because you want that? Okay, because wisdom, there's a cost to it. There is a huge cost to gaining wisdom. You have to face hard things. But again, you're grateful for it if you choose to be. You can choose to be bitter or better. If you choose to be, if you see it for what it is. And that's why hard things for me, don't get me wrong, I'm not out saying, let's go find the toughest thing to do today. No, that's not the case. But when they do come your way, and when you're faced with them, are you going to choose the journey, accept it for what it is, and learn something from it? Or are you going to choose to shy away from it and just say, I'll be bitter? No, be better.
Yeah. And that flies a lot into the face of culture now, which is like the right now immediacy of things that we want. Because that growth isn't like, it's not the switch flip, right? It is a long time coming.
Yeah.
And we want things now. So it's even harder to lean into that, because it sounds nice, but the reality of that is like, it's a process. It's going to take you some time to get what you want out of this, whatever it is you're saying yes to.
Yeah, you're right. Well, that's why it's, you asked me earlier, well, what makes you keep going for these, 30 years? We're not done, right? There's more to it. Could I hang it up and say, Shaun, you've done enough? Sure. But that's not why I'm in it. I'm not in this for, I'm not in, your purpose has to outweigh the things along the way. There it is. It has to outweigh the things along the way, because when it gets hard, and it will, you ask yourself, is the purpose still worth it? If your purpose is insignificant, if it's kind of cheap, if it can kind of be knocked away, then yeah, I can see you moving on. But those who persevere, who stick with it, is because their purpose is greater. See, my purpose was never personal fame or glory. That's not why I'm in here. If that was the case, I could have left a long time ago. My purpose here is not to, get all the pats on the back. I got that. I had that. As an athlete, that was one thing. My purpose is, again, there's another kid out there who was just like me. And I think that's beneficial, because, see, you become very dangerous because you can't be bought. You can't be cheaply given something and say, compromise it. No, because my purpose is greater than the stuff that comes in the way. So yeah, that's why. So if you're gonna go through hard things, ask yourself, what's your purpose?
I was on the way here this morning, and there's a 10th Avenue North song called Control. And it's the lyric that just hit me was, the King of Heaven wants me, so this world has lost its grip on me. Like, talking about purpose, put anything else in front of me. Doesn't matter. I've got a greater calling and purpose. Identity, all right. So, all these difficult things we're talking about.
Yeah.
All the hard things you've been through in life. Like, do hard things become easier the more you go through other ones?
It depends. On if you're evolving. Another level, another devil. Use an analogy here. If you're playing, and I grew up, I did play video games as a kid. The skills you would learn first of Mario, right? When you got to the next level, you use those same skills, but the challenge became greater. You got past that level, you learned to combine the skills you learned from level 1 and 2, now level 3. You learn how to do things better, right? Because the challenges become greater. It's not the fact that the challenges themselves or the hard things become easier. It's just you've learned from the past of how to now deal with what's in front of you. So it depends. If you're evolving, you're going to have greater challenges. If you keep running to the same circumstances, the same issue, it means you're still on the same level. You haven't passed the test yet. So if you're still having the same problem, it's because you're still on the same level. You go to the next level, you're going to encounter more challenges. I can say that within our sport. There are challenges that we now face that we've never had before. Why? Because we're evolving. We're now having challenges that talks about television production, right? And the proper lighting, or do these events need to happen, not because someone doesn't like it, no, but because we've got a television contract we've got to do, right?
So what is a current hard thing in your life? And you were in the middle of talking about the future of jump rope, like the things you guys are facing, because you've evolved.
Yeah.
So let's just pick up that question with what you were talking about.
Well, yeah, because we're evolved now in jump rope, we're facing different challenges now, or the hard things that are now are questions we really haven't had to ask ourselves. What events will be televised, right? How can we make an event ticketed to the point to where entire communities want to come, right? How do we make this more profitable? And because some of that is going to challenge our own community to say, well, we've always done this. Yeah, when we were at that level. But now we're on a different level. Guess what? We've got different challenges we have to face. And that's a hard thing to change culture. Culture is a hard thing to change. As I've said before, culture will kill any idea, no matter how good it is. The culture is not right. And that's where effective leadership comes in. Effective leadership knows how to communicate a vision, give people ownership in that vision. So now they're more excited to actually take part of the change versus saying change is being thrusted upon me. It takes a while, it's not easy, but you've got to plant those seeds and move forward. So as we evolve as a sport, we're having deeper conversations that's going to benefit us all. But it's hard, it's not easy, it's not easy. Everyone would agree that we need to do better, right? But everyone's not willing to do what it takes to make that happen. Yeah.
So the vision in my head of all this is like walking in quicksand a little bit. Or the easy analogy is it's a big ship. Culture is just a big ship, and it takes a really long time to turn a big ship, right?
Yep.
But as I'm listening to you, it just sounds like you're walking in quicksand, like a little bit. Like the wrong step is going to leave you stuck. Rather than walking on solid ground, because culture is, you never really know what you're going to step in almost.
No.
Right? And
no, you don't. No, you don't.
I don't know if that's the best analogy. Is there? You're an analogy man. What's the best analogy for what you're talking about with this culture shift?
I think it's maybe more about trying to get ants to build a new home. Ants, they don't like moving new homes. They create their colony, they make all their tunnels, they get very comfortable. They know where home base is, right? You can always touch that. But for the ant safety, guess what? We got to go move to another place. We got to do that. How do you get people to go do that? How do you get the ants to go build another colony in some other place? It's not easy. But we know it's for their good, because if not, we're gonna die here. We're not gonna grow here, right? How do you convince people to do that? And you often have to give them what's in their best interest. But sometimes people go against their own interest. Sometimes it's very difficult. But it's again, that's where the greatness really resides. And that's where leadership really is worth its weight in gold. Leaders have to be able to see and think 15, 20 steps ahead, 20 years down the road. They're not thinking about how do I get through this year. They're thinking about how can this move set up for the next 10, 15 years. And that's where I believe our sport has its best opportunity. That's why I'm so excited to work with the leaders we have around in IJRU, because we have shifted from this, let's get from this year to this year of no. Let's set up for the next 10, 15 years, because that's where it's really going to pay off. Again, it's not easy, but it's worth it. Because our athletes are worth it, right? Our sport is worth it. So let me get this straight. We're not going to do it because it's hard? Okay. That's not the kind of leadership I want to be a part of. So I'm encouraged by the people who I'm around.
Yeah. It's a selfish leadership, right? Like if, that's not really, I don't want to take us there because that's going to be a lot of work, or it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
Versus the kind that's like, hey, it doesn't really matter because it's not about me and what
That's
I'm
right.
enduring. It's about you and where we're trying to take you and what we're trying to lead you to, or the next generation.
That's right.
Use some of the language that you've, I think, been using of changing the lives of children, right? Because that's changing the next generation of
Absolutely.
people. And so, anyways.
Yeah.
So, with the anthill analogy, you obviously can't be the queen ant for everybody's colony.
Nope.
So how do you get? Because the key, right? If you use the analogy, take it to its full end. You got to take the queen and move the queen.
That's
You
right.
got to get the queen to move.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? How do you move the queen ant?
Heck, I don't know. I don't know. You know what I've learned to do, especially in this jump rope leadership perspective, is the athletes will lead you. They will show you. They will often tell you if you listen. You got to be where the cool kids are, right? And the cool kids are the athletes. And usually, if you listen to the athletes, they'll tell you. You got to listen to them. And if you continue to do that, you're going to find yourself on solid ground, better ground than if you don't listen to them. One thing about leadership is you basically know what you don't know, or at least you acknowledge that I don't know everything, and that's okay. It's okay to admit what you don't know as a leader. But you got to be willing to listen to others to help you. And I'm so proud of IJRU because we're not just listening to ourselves, right? We're listening to the athletes. But watch this, we're listening to other sports too, because they have been where we are, right? How else are you going to get out of a maze unless you listen to someone who's gotten out of it before, right?